There's probably going to be some bad language in this, so you might not want to let the kids watch. What's going on, you pack of dickheads? The Wino is back, this time to talk about Dana White's Contender Series. We finished The Ultimate Fighter on the weekend with the finale card. Pretty good card, and we're straight into the next season of the Contender Series, which I'm pretty happy about. I'm a big fan of the Contender Series. It's, you know, a little mini midweek extra UFC card that we get, and the fights are generally pretty exciting. The cards are usually crackers because of this concept of it's not just enough to win, you need to do something impressive or exciting to earn the contract. And look, I know I've been critical of Dana in parts in videos in the past, but I don't mind this idea that you need some excitement to get the contract on this show, because it does build great fight cards and make the fights exciting. I'm not of the belief that you need to be someone super exciting all the time just to get into the UFC. I think, you know, merit and results and technique should play a big role in that as well. If you're good enough, no matter how boring you are, you should still get a crack at being in there. But that being said, the actual Contender Series itself, I'm fine with that idea that you need to have a bit of excitement and whatnot to get a contract on the show. And that being said, we kicked off our first season, our fifth season today with a bit of a weird episode, honestly. It was bookended by two great knockouts, a flying knee knockout to kick off the card and a big knockout by a big light heavyweight Russian to finish the card. But a bit of weirdness in between, with the second fight being a complete robbery, if you ask me, and the third fight ending early due to an eye poke. But as the title of this video shows, fucking contracts galore! And this is where I'll give Dana a bit of credit. And look, I quite like Dana, to be honest with you. A lot of what he does is great. If you've watched my previous videos, it might seem like I hate Dana, because most of the times I've talked about him on this channel, it's been critical, but that's just because anything I've thought noteworthy enough to talk about has been something negative since I started this channel. And on this episode, he did something that I think we need to point out, like, good on you, Dana. And that is giving a contract to both the flyweights in the second fight. The guy in the first fight, as soon as he landed that flying knee and knocked the dude out, I'm like, well, wrap this up. That guy's getting the contract. There's no fucking intrigue around that. Like, waiting for the rest of the card to say, oh, is anyone going to do something more impressive? Wouldn't matter. That dude's getting the fucking contract if you knock your opponent out with a flying knee, especially in the first round. But the second fight, it was an interesting one, because Candelario, I thought, clearly won the first two rounds. He got the first round. The second round, the striking was pretty even. Look, I just watched this today. I might have to rewatch it to know for sure. But what I remember thinking while I was scoring it watching live was he won the first, he won the second pretty clearly. Even though, like, I thought he won the striking, even though the numbers were pretty even, I thought he probably got the better of it. But he dominated the grappling. He had a whole bunch of top time. So even if you had the striking pretty close, you'd have to give him the round on the grappling. And then the third round was clearly, shit, what's his name? I've forgotten his name. Gonna have to have a quick look up here. Altamirano clearly got that third. I found it a bit weird that Candelario was coming off the gas so hard in the third round, but then when you think it was done on 2 weeks' notice, it kind of makes a bit of sense that he didn't have time to condition himself for the fight, and he hasn't fought. Well, he'd had one fight, but before that one, he hadn't fought in like 3 years. But watching it, I was thinking, look, this Candelario guy is good enough to be in the UFC, but I don't think his performance in this fight is exciting enough to get a contract on the Contender Series, just going off the experience of watching all the past Contender Series episodes. I was hoping that he'd get a crack in the future, whether like in a card in the next couple of months, whether that's coming in as an injury replacement or just getting signed on to the card. It's just you don't get a contract on the show because it wasn't quite exciting enough. That's what I was expecting. Then he got robbed of the decision, so I'm like, he's definitely not getting a fucking contract here. And I don't think Alta Moreno's done enough to win a contract because I don't think he did enough to win the fucking fight. But Dana surprises us all by giving them both contracts. And I'm like, good on you, Dana. He brought up the fact that Candelario came in on 2 weeks' notice, and he appreciated that he put his record on the line and risked it. And I'm like, yeah, it's good to see you showing a bit of appreciation there for that type of thing. And I suppose, because I really didn't see enough out of Alta Moreno to get a contract, but I suppose Dana was just like, well, first of all, he can't give Candelario. He thought Candelario won and he was ready to give him a contract. He's like, well, I can't give the loser a contract and not the winner. That'd be a bit fucking silly. But the other thing is, and I did think about this before the results came out when I was saying, like, he's good enough to be in the UFC, but I don't think this performance is contract worthy. I was also thinking, but they are flyweights, which is the shallowest division, and the UFC needs more flyweights. So the fact that he booked both of them kind of makes a bit of sense because it is a division that needs a bit of fluffing up. But I was glad to see it. Then the next fight, Brito. It was a good fight. I didn't think he was going to get a contract. Even if the third round continued like the first two had, I didn't necessarily think Brito would get a contract off that. But especially with it finishing with the eye poke, I thought there's no way this guy's getting a contract. But he did. So look forward to seeing him get his shot. It seems like it was pretty easy deciding in the end because seems like everyone else, definitely the judges, all gave Brito those first 2 rounds. And I think that's pretty clear to most people. But Lopez did make a bit of a question out of it with those submission attempts. He had some decent submission attempts in there that make it hard to decipher who wins a round. But with the heavy shots and, you know, the takedowns and all the top time from Brito, I think it makes complete sense that he won that fight. And I mean, clearly, because I haven't heard anyone say that they thought Lopez won any of those rounds. And then, finally, we had the light heavyweights and, what was his name? Merck something. He certainly murked his opponent. Where is it? Mirzakhanov. Mirzakhanov got a big flatline KO. And as soon as that happened, I'm like, well, there you go. You've got 2 contracts going out. You'll probably hear the classic, like, oh, look, these other guys did all right, but maybe they need a bit more, or, you know, it was a bit of a weird thing. I expected Dana to say he didn't agree with the judge's decision in the second fight, which he did say, but he ended up giving them both contracts. So, yeah, really weird show. We've seen shows before where everyone on the card got a contract, but we've never seen shows where not everyone on the card got a contract, all the winners on the card got a contract. So we saw that again this time, but we also got a loser get a contract, which is the first time we've had a loser get a contract at all, and it happened to happen on a show where all the other winners got contracts. So it ended up that this episode had more contracts than fights. Strange way to kick off the season, but a good way to kick off the season. Can't wait for the rest of it. I love the Contender Series, and I'm happy with Dana's decisions so far. Still pissed off at him about Brendan Luffman. Fucking hell, that's ridiculous. Catch you next time, next week, next Contender Series episode. See you then on the Wino.